All right, so you guys wanted us to do a deep dive on Pi Network Testnet 2, and, well, we aim to please. We got you covered.
We are going way beyond the headlines today. Really going to unpack what this testnet means for Pi and for all of you listening out there who are interested in its future.
Because honestly, this doesn't feel like just another update, like a normal Tuesday for Pi.
You're right. It does feel like something big is coming, and that's because it is.
Okay, I like where this is going.
This is it. This is them gearing up. You got to remember what they're trying to do here. Creating a cryptocurrency that's truly decentralized, accessible. Anyone can use this thing, not just like Silicon Valley types, not just finance people.
Also crypto bros, yeah.
Right, not just the crypto bros. Remember when they came out and were so insistent on this whole mobile-first approach? That was a big indicator.
Huge clue, yeah. So, okay, Testnet 2. What's the headline here? How are they getting closer with this?
Well, they're doing it very publicly, which is interesting. For example, this seamless switching for node operators. That's a big deal.
Okay, so for those of us who, node operation is not our first language, break that down a little bit for me. What does that mean, and what does it mean for the average user?
So think about it this way. Your node operators, those are like the backbone of the network, right? They're all the little power generators that are contributing to the grid.
I'm with you.
And the easier you can make it for these nodes to not just function, but also switch back and forth between test mode and then the real deal.
The smoother the launch will be, the less chance of any hiccups, yeah.
You got it. It shows that they are designing this thing for stability, for mass adoption. They want people to be able to run these nodes, not just, the hardcore people, but everyday people. And that's what's essential for a decentralized system. You need that.
Okay, well, speaking of making things smooth, let's talk about these transaction fees for a second.
Yeah.
They are drastically reduced. I mean, 0.000000099 pi. That's essentially zero.
It's a fraction of a pi. And it's not, this isn't going to be the final fee structure, but what it does show is the potential value of Pi and whether or not it'll actually be viable to use for everyday transactions. And this is where things get really interesting, especially when you start comparing it to some of these other cryptocurrencies.
Because right now, let's be honest, a lot of these are unusable for small purchases, microtransactions.
Yeah, try buying a cup of coffee with Bitcoin. You're going to end up paying more in fees than you did for the coffee itself.
Absolutely.
And that's what makes, it makes these micropayments, these peer-to-peer transfers, all the things that people said would be the revolution in finance, it makes it almost impossible.
Yeah.
Pi seems to be tackling that head on.
It's like they're saying we want to build a network for the people, for everyday use.
And that's the thing. It ties directly back into what we were talking about with the node operators.
Because people need an incentive.
Exactly. Who is going to run these nodes? Who's going to power this thing? They need an incentive. So a combination of low fees, potential future value.
That's your motivator right there.
Right. And it's a smart strategy, but I think what's really interesting is they're not rushing it. They're not cutting corners. And I think one of the most interesting things about Testnet 2 is this very methodical approach to feedback and refinement.
Yeah, they're being very selective about who they're allowing to participate, constantly gathering data, analyzing every little bit of feedback that's coming from these nodes.
Stress testing the system before they open the floodgates, because remember, once they launch this mainnet, it's out there, it's decentralized, it's in the hands of the community.
It really is high stakes, one shot at getting it right.
Yeah, totally. And it's interesting, because you had some other crypto projects that, rushed into Mainnet.
Yeah, more hype than substance.
Exactly. And Pi Network is clearly taking a very different approach.
Okay, so they're testing, refining, gathering all this feedback. But for someone like me, or for anyone listening who's maybe not super deep in the crypto space, what does decentralization actually mean? Practically speaking, why should we care?
I think that's the million-dollar question, and that's kind of what they're betting on here. But, think about it this way. Right now, so much of our digital lives are controlled by, these big companies.
Centralized platforms?
Centralized platforms, yeah.
Social media, payment processors.
All of it, absolutely. And these platforms, they have all the power. They control your data. They can censor whatever content they want. They can shut you down.
We've seen it happen.
Yeah, we've seen it. It's a little scary.
It's a little bit scary, yeah.
So decentralization is basically the opposite of that. It's about giving control back to the users, right? Distributing that power. In this case, to the people running the nodes, the people who are actively participating.
So instead of Mark Zuckerberg deciding what you can and can't post on Facebook, it's this network of users who are all contributing to what the rules are, the governance.
Right, which is, that's a radical idea. When you actually think about it.
It is, yeah.
No, it's not, a perfect system. Decentralization comes with its own set of challenges,
That's
right?
Of course, yeah.
Security, scalability. How do you make sure that it's actually fair? How do you make sure that it's inclusive?
Right, because if you only have, a small, really tech-savvy group of people running the nodes, it kind of defeats the purpose.
Exactly, and that's why what Pi is doing with this accessibility thing is so important. If they can actually make it easy for anyone, anywhere, to run a node,
That you've got
then you've got a real shot at creating something that, millions of people are actually using, and it all comes back to this testnet. Because this isn't just about the tech. They're testing their assumption. Can we make this work? Can we make a system that is this secure, but also this stable and accessible?
Huge experiment. Honestly, no one knows.
Nobody.
No one knows what's going to happen.
Well, they're playing the long game. That much we do know.
It's going to be exciting to see what happens.
We're kind of watching history in the making here, and Testnet 2 is like, all right, come on in, take a look. We're serious about this.
Yeah.
This is not a game.
So, okay, let's say everything goes according to plan, right? Mainnet launch is a success. People love running nodes, the whole decentralized thing. It works. What does that world look like? What does that actually mean? Like, for me, just a guy,
The billion-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
And the reason that everyone in the crypto world is watching this so closely, because this is challenging some assumptions here about what cryptocurrency even is and who it's for.
It's like the whole thesis of it. Mobile first, accessible to anyone with a smartphone. That's a big idea.
Huge.
Yeah.
Because if they can pull this off, if this really does become like the cryptocurrency for everyone, then yeah, it could change how we think about money, value, the internet itself.
Right. Like, imagine a world where, social media isn't controlled by a few big companies, but by the users. A financial system that's actually, fair and transparent.
We're talking big if here.
Yeah, of course.
Theoretical.
Still very early.
But that's what makes this so interesting.
Yeah.
We're talking about potentially, like a paradigm shift. And by, even just by being interested in this, by understanding these developments, you're kind of on the front lines of this whole thing.
So, all right, where do we go from here? What should we be looking for as we get closer to this mainnet launch?
Watch the community. Watch to see, is there an ecosystem developing around this? Are people building real world applications? Are we starting to see businesses accept it?
Right, because that's how you know it's actually going to be adopted.
Exactly.
That's what's going to determine if this is the real deal.
Yeah. It's like, think about the early days of the internet, right? Like the technology was there, but it wasn't until people really figured out, okay, this is how we connect, this is how we share information, this is how we build businesses.
That's when it exploded.
Exactly. And that's the potential here. Could be huge, but, time will tell.
It's all still being written.
Exactly. And you're a part of it.
Well, there you have it. That is our deep dive on Pi Network's Testnet 2. Hopefully you got a better understanding of what they're trying to do, what to watch, and why this is such a big deal. This is not just another update. This is something much bigger, and it's exciting to see what happens. So until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, keep diving deep. We'll see you next time.